Hey, welcome to the CMO Whisper Show. I'm your host, Steve Olensky. Part marketing practitioner, part ad agency veteran, part journalist. I was a writer for Forbes for 10 years. I've had so many insightful conversations over the years with business leaders, to athletes, to celebrities, to, of course, CMOs. The only difference now is instead of sharing those insights through written form, I'm doing it this way. My guest this week is Kyle Monson, co-founder of Codeword, an agency that fuses journalism, PR, and advertising into a single field they like to call communication design. Over the past 12 years, he's grown the agency from 3 people with strong opinions to more than 100 people working together to shape the future of technology marketing. Kyle has worked in the tech industry for nearly 20 years, first as a journalist, then as a marketer for global tech brands and a wide range of startups. And when he's not hunched over his laptop, he enjoys watching anime with his kids. And he also plays a bunch of instruments with his band called Controller. And he can sit at the piano and bang out pretty much any song just by ear. That may be the number one thing I'm most jealous of you, by the way, Kyle, is that. So welcome to the show.
Oh, I'm blushing. Thanks, Steve.
Absolutely. I'm serious. I am such a music fan, which we'll get into later. But having the ability to have that ear, and piano's always been one of my favorite instruments. And when I read that about you, I'm like, damn, I'm already envy of this guy for all that he's done. Plus, he can do that. Like, man, come on, dude, that's not right.
Well, my synesthesia helps with that. But yeah, thanks for having me on the show. Your guest list is just bonkers. So I'm really honored to be here as someone who's not a CMO and doesn't actually work for a brand.
Well, not at all. Not at all. My guest list has always been back to my Forbes days. That kind of belies the title CMO Whisper because I talk to everybody.
Yeah.
And they don't have to be a CMO or anything like that. And they're thought leaders and they're good people. And you absolutely fit into that category.
Oh,
so
thanks.
And look, we've had really interesting conversations off air around the topic that you kind of phrase it as, can marketers, quote, have it all?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, I can imagine people listening going right now go, what does he mean? Define all, right? And I want to kind of tee it up into what you and I are going to talk about in terms of what we call like the conversation about a work-life balance, right? Which, of course, is always one of those holy grails. And how do you achieve that work-life balance? And I know, knowing you as a person, that's really important to you, right? Not just for you, but those who work at your agency, right? It's having that work-life balance. So let's get into, the marketers having it all, the work-life balance. How do you look at that? How can marketers really have it all?
Yeah, it's a question that I think we've been asking ourselves as an industry for, let's say, the past 4 years, 5 years. Questions about work-life balance. Can we bring our whole self to work? Conversations about like, should we work a shorter work week? Things like that. And to be honest, it kind of sounds like a foreign language in the marketing industry where like, sure, some knowledge industries can get away with it, working shorter work weeks, giving more vacation, but marketing's a competitive field. You kind of got to like put in the time if you're going to be good at it and keep up. And I think it demands a lot of time to stay informed on industry trends, stay innovative, keep up with best practices. So one of the big things we've been grappling with as a mid-sized agency is it even possible to run an organization of really high achievers that also values setting boundaries around personal time, mental health, wellness, things like that. So we've been running a series of experiments really over the past 4 years since COVID. And I think our answer so far is, yes, we can have both and then the if is kind of where all the experiments land.
Yep.
And I would say none of them are conclusive yet. We're still like gathering information, surveying our employees, taking, kind of gauging the winds of which way the industry trends are going and things like that.
So talk a little bit about these experiments, which we'll get into, really looking at it from like someone listening to this who runs a department, runs a company. I'm curious, why did you feel the need to kind of do these quote experiments?
Yeah, I think it's, we set a goal a few years ago to create the best agency in the world while also creating the best agency experience in the world and seeing if those two, that seem to be in tension, but can they actually coexist? Part of it's just simple market dynamics. We're a mid-sized agency. We're not Droga, we're not Wyden and Kennedy, we're not Google, we're not Meta. We kind of have to provide a really great employee experience so that we can attract top talent. And then also, just as a creative myself, I tend to think that we need to create an environment that nurtures and supports really great creative thinking and innovation and kind of that fearless attitude that's required to innovate. So some of it's just like we're under pressure. We are competing with Google and Meta and Wyden for talent, especially top talent. And if we're going to win that competition, we've got to provide something, really breakthrough and different, which I think is true of a lot of your listeners, I would assume. We're all kind of in the same
Yep.
talent squeeze and we're fighting for the same people in a lot of cases. And I want to win that fight. I'm here to win. Let's win.
Exactly. And, the war for talent is obviously not just, only for agencies. It's for brands. It's for anybody, right?
Absolutely.
So creating that differentiator or differential, plural, is got to be near or top of the list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so a few things that we're doing, much of which is informed, by the way, by the Netflix culture deck, which I know has been passed around a zillion times in our industry. But if you haven't read it, just Google Netflix culture deck and it'll pop up, where there's a lot of thinking behind what do high performers want from an employer? Like, do they want like a rich in-office culture? Do they want, XYZ benefits? What are they really looking for? From our perspective, they want to be treated like adults. They want to be trusted to do good work. And they want to look to the left and the right and see that there are other creative, smart people that they can collaborate with at the org. So really everything we're doing is built around that. Like, can we create an environment where high performers are empowered, they're trusted, and they can look side to side and see that they're on this great team that they're proud to be a part of. So I don't know. Do you want me to I can get into the specifics if you want.
I do. And I know there's some things we want to get into. And I love this phrase that I don't know if you or someone at the agency coined called trustparency. You called it, quote, our bullshit corporate word that means we're going to treat and talk to each other like adults. And those words could not resonate anymore with me, right? And it's such a cliche sometimes when you hear that from leaders and companies and managers and on and on and on, like, oh no, we're all adults, but then it doesn't happen. And so I want my listeners to hear and understand what exactly you mean by that phrase and how you live it every day.
Yeah, I mean, trustparency, again, I have to apologize for bringing that word into the world, but it's a combination of trust and transparency, right? Like, we trust our adult humans who we work with, and therefore we can be transparent with them, just like we hope they can trust and be transparent with us, and kind of take some of the animosity out of the manager-employee relationship, because I don't think it has to be a relationship of animosity. So some of the ways we do that, there are no secrets at Codeword, for instance. There's some private information, but we are very open on everything with the team. We share our financials. We share how much we're billing clients. We charge how much we're billing for our team members. We try to set really clear expectations, which is hard. And then we let people decide for themselves how to get their work done at a really high level in what is mostly a remote environment. We don't work in the office very often.
So you said something about setting the clear expectations is the hardest part.
Oh, it's horribly hard. Yeah.
Elaborate on that.
Communicating to folks where the quality bar is, I think, is very challenging, especially for conflict averse creatives like myself. Like, we expect a lot out of people, and we're in a client services business. We're an agency. Like, we have to meet our clients' expectations. We have to match their energy level. We have to, exceed the brief, as it were. And that's a tough thing to communicate, I think, in any agency setting or any marketing setting. So yeah, the setting expectations is really hard.
And having that kind of like mutually agreed upon, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think especially with, our executives and our managers understand what that means. I think with the mid-levels and some of the newer employees or newer folks in the industry, it takes a minute for them to figure out what it means to work in the service industry and how to exceed expectations and what your manager expects of you. And I think that's 3 times as hard in a remote environment, as everybody knows by now.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about, from, post-COVID,
Yeah.
right? If you compare and contrast pre and post-COVID, a lot of employers have those ongoing, quote, challenges, right? Do you require people to go back to the office? Do you treat them like adults and trust that they're going to get their work done? What's been the overall thought process from Codeword's perspective, kind of comparing, contrasting pre and post COVID?
It's tricky. I mean, we call ourselves remote first, which means we have office spaces in our primary markets, San Francisco and New York mostly, but we're not going to require people to go there, which means they don't go there. And to me, that's fine. Like if you can work at a high level in your apartment, do it. You definitely should do that. If you can move to a community that feels more relaxing and more of moves at your speed, maybe in a way that New York City doesn't, okay, fine. Like you can definitely do that. So trying to make accommodations for people is wrapped up in that transparency idea. Like, I don't care where you work from, really. I don't care how much you're getting FaceTime. If your clients are coming into the office for a meeting, I hope you'll be there and dress to impress and do all the things that, you used to do in 2019, but I'm not going to demand it.
Yeah. I got you.
Yeah.
You said something again off the air, but I want to bring up. You said we're laser focused on the work, not the work around the work.
Yeah. So that's something we've really been experimenting. Starting in 2024, we rolled out something that we're calling Soft Fridays. Our team has been asking for years, could we ever get to a 4-day work week? And look, we're a services business. We work with some of the biggest brands on earth. They're not working 4-day work weeks. I don't think we can get to a 4-day work week as an agency and survive it, really. So we've been thinking about how can we get close to that? What can we do to get as close to a 4-day work week as possible, but still do really high level, great work for clients? And our answer was Soft Fridays. That's the experiment that we're doing in 2024, where basically encouraging people to log off when you can on Friday. Assuming your work is done, your client needs are met, close your laptop. Turn on notifications on your phone in case someone needs something, but go live your life. To get there, it's actually been really hard to make that possible, and we're still trying to figure out how to do it. But the main way is lowering the administrative burden on teams. So that's where we're talking about those 8 hours a day or whatever should be spent on the work for your clients, not the work around the work for the agency, which means, we're minimizing standing meetings. We're trying to streamline our internal work streams. We're asking less from an administrative level. We're doing less formal training exercises. That's kind of controversial with our team. But we're look, we're not a school. You need to stay up on your industry best practices, but we're not going to do a bunch of formal training thing that takes time and takes you away from your clients. And then we're doing less team building. Time sucks too, which again is a little controversial. We're not trying to build culture with client time. We can do that after hours. You can hang out with your employees. We want the culture to be built around doing great work versus putting time into, fun and games. I'd rather give you that time back on a Friday and you can close your laptop and go, hang out with your dog or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's been hard. It's been it's been hard, and it's an ongoing experiment to see how we can do it.
Yeah, look, I definitely commend you for trying this, and it's definitely different. And there's a word, invest, right? And what you were just talking about was now investing time, right? How you guys look at, and when I say you guys, the senior leadership, how to best invest everybody's time. But then there's also the financial side of investment, right? Where, as you put it, let companies screw this up, right? And you guys are very, very specific and careful about the investments you make because you feel like you have that responsibility. Talk a little bit about goes through that thought process in terms of how the company looks at using profits to benefit everybody.
Yeah, we basically have to be profitable as an agency. And I think that means we need to run lean. We need to run efficient. We're lucky in that advertising and marketing PR aren't super capital intensive industries. We don't have a lot of overhead. We can run pretty lean and mean. But I think it's a different philosophy, than you'll find on in-house marketing teams where your product is the product you are selling, not the marketing itself. At an agency, our product is the marketing. We don't have another product that we're selling. It's our time. So we have to be really careful about how we apply our time and how we invest it and what we're putting it into. At the same time, like I said earlier, we are competing with some of the best companies on earth for talent, which means we have to pay. We have to be competitive on comp and give high performers the comp they deserve, as well as layering in, lifestyle balances and creativity and autonomy, and all the other things we can offer as a small agency. But so those things together mean we have a real responsibility to turn a profit, so that and we're owned by a parent company, We Communications. We definitely have a responsibility to them to turn a profit. But we also need to make a profit so that we can pay our employees as much as we possibly can, so that they're engaged, they're incentivized to do great work. They're not going to jump ship for somewhere else. Speaking really candidly, that's been tricky the past couple of years. We're in a situation where for most agencies that I know of, like flat is up over the past year or 2 years. If you're not losing money, you're doing great. If you're making money, holy smokes, you've got magical wizard abilities. And we've been profitable. Not as great as we'd like, but we're doing okay, which we feel really lucky about.
Yeah, and the retention thing is a really interesting thing because you juxtapose it over the old, classic line of it's always too easy to retain a customer to get a new one.
Yeah.
The same logic applies to an employee, correct?
Usually. We're in a really good talent market right now. Like there are lots of people looking for jobs. We posted a job opening like 2 weeks ago. And we got, I think, 400 resumes for it. So the talent market is in our favor at the moment, but it's all cyclical, And I think as many benefits as a small agency gives to employees, it does have drawbacks. We're not a company where you can come and kind of kick back and, sort of quiet quit or whatever the latest phrase is. The way, you can't really hide at a small agency. But yeah, the talent market is definitely cyclical, and I think it's in our favor right now, especially for creatives like writers, designers, strategists, for sure.
Yeah. Another phrase that you've used is fire faster. And look, no one ever wants to see anybody lose their job, but by the same token, we both know, and I think most of my listeners, if you don't know, this is not, and when I say this, I mean the world that you live in is not for everyone.
Yeah, and a lot of this comes from two things. The Netflix culture deck, where Reed Hastings is very specific. He's like, the best companies fire fast and fire frequently because not everyone's going to work out. And the only way to maintain a high quality bar is to, protect it, sort of. The other place it comes from, I watch Hard Knocks on HBO or on Max, I guess. I don't know if you're into football.
I do.
Okay, so when we think of our managers as team builders, like you've actually got a responsibility to go find the best running back you can find. And like, we got to put a winning team on the field. We owe that to our clients to build the best possible unit that we can for them, which means we're always trying to get better at this, but firing fast and reloading and making sure that as we reload, we're reloading with better talent, which I think we're pretty good at. But yeah, that's a hard one. It's emotional. It drags down the team. Personally, I think that the toll paid by a community for low performers is much higher than the toll paid for keeping low performers around.
Interesting.
What do you think about? Is that in line with your experience as well?
Yes, it is. It really is. That's why I'm finding it very interesting that you happen to say that.
Yeah.
The other thing you mentioned is you framed it shame-free. And when I read it, I'm like, damn, it's even sad that he has to even bring this up. But when you wrote, we don't shame people for taking time off when they want, right?
Yeah.
And just I don't know, maybe it's just me. I don't think it is. I hope it's not just me. Just the fact that you even have to call that out because we know the alternative where companies do shame people.
Yeah. And I think this is some new language that I'm experimenting with right now. But, like we offer 20 vacation days and tons of like extra days off throughout the year. It's hard to get people to take it. It really is. And every company I've worked at is like that, like the high performers struggle to take time off and step away. They feel this sense of responsibility and duty and esprit de corps that they're letting their team down if they go to France for a week. And we're basically trying to say like, no, guys, like you have 20 days off. You should definitely take them and don't apologize for it. And on the flip side, high performers sometimes also don't mind working longer hours or nights and weekends to get really good or to nail a project that they really care deeply about. And I don't want to shame those people either because I'm one of them. Like, I do not mind working nights and weekends. My favorite projects are the ones that take a little bit extra out of me. And I don't want to feel guilty for that either. And I don't want anyone else to. That's how we get great at our jobs for the most part. So this shame-free environment, like, again, is part of treating people like an adult. You have this time. You should definitely take it. you've got this big project you care about, put all yourself into it. It's great.
Yeah, it's a two-sided coin to the shame topic, if you will.
Well, because like we're in a creative field, right? Creative, it's competitive. I think this way about all of marketing. Like we say that we're creatives and that we're artists. Nobody's asking Beyonce what her work-life balance is like.
Right.
Like she's killing herself every single day. Like these are like such cliched examples, but Taylor Swift, that Eras tour started like a year ago, and she's got a whole year left. Like every night doing this thing, working really hard. No one's like, well, I don't know, like, is your work-life balance? No, she wants to be the absolute best she can be. And I think that that's true. I'm a writer by trade. That's definitely true of writers too. Like if you want to be a great writer, you got to just write a whole bunch all the time and work really hard at it.
So speaking of writing, and I always bring up this, what I now very lovingly refer to as the elephant in the room for basically everybody on the planet, let alone marketers and agencies and the like, is AI.
Ooh.
So I would be remiss if I didn't get your thoughts on, AI in general. Are you hearing from your own employees going, is AI going to take my job? If I do kind of word association with you, AI, go. What comes to mind?
I can't do word association because many of our clients are leaders in the AI space.
Fair enough.
So I actually have to watch my words somewhat. But I'll give it to you straight. I do think that it is coming for writing jobs. My vision is that it makes writers better at their jobs. And I think that that's what's going to happen. Everyone is so obsessed right now with, can AI write a screenplay? Can AI write a blog post? Can AI write a book? It's like, yeah, I can. It's not going to be a good book or a good screenplay. Why don't we focus on how AI can help me write a better blog post or help me write a better screenplay? Like, there was a great tweet the other day. Let me see if I can find it. It was like, here it is. Why isn't AI doing the tedious shit for creative people instead of the creative shit for tedious people? And that's like exactly it. Like, yeah, AI can produce whole cloth creative works, but let's not ask it to do that. Let's ask it to help us be better as creatives. And I think that's the direction it's going. I think it's certainly going to change the marketing industry, both on the strategy side and the technical side, as well as on the creative side. But I don't think it's going to replace humans. I think it's going to, the best of us will learn to harness it and get faster and better and more creative using these tools.
Well, that's just it, right? And, I too have the writing background and journalism background, and I do not think it's going to take, jobs away completely. But it's going to affect those who don't harness it the right way.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I was quoted in Digiday yesterday saying that, AI is a powerful technology. It's very much in its toddler phase. We don't know yet what it's going to grow up to be. And it's a super wide-ranging technology. We're focused on these specific use cases. Oh, it can do video now. Oh, it can do this. It can do that. The underlying foundation models are kind of designed to be super open-ended, which means I don't think we even know yet where they're going to go and how we're going to use these things in 5 years, 10 years. So it's really hard to pin down specific risks because this technology has like infinite use cases. Like, what can it do? It can kind of do a little bit of everything right now, and it's going to keep getting better. So yeah, I'm not sure that's a bad thing. In my opinion, it's a technology that can legitimately destabilize industries, but I think it's also really empowering for individuals. And I think that can be exciting for all of us. We'll see. My favorite thing, by the way, if you want me to like get spicy for a minute.
Of course, I love spice.
The dumbest thing our industry is doing is setting AI aside as this specialty skill that only certain wizards can do, and like putting those wizards in a corner and being like, that's our AI team. Like, that is nonsense. Don't do that. It needs to be democratized, spread across the org. It needs to make everyone better. That's the whole point. And honestly, like the companies that are building these models, like Google, for instance, is really good at building technologies that are simple enough for everyone to use. That's kind of their whole thing. So to say like, well, this AI technology, you have to be a prompt engineer to know what to ask the tools, like, that's nonsense. These tools are like pretty easy to engage with at this point, and they're going to get way easier over the next 12 months. It's like what we did with remember digital agencies 20 years ago? There was like digital, and then there was everything else. And it's like, that caused a ton of problems for our industry for decades. that we separated those out.
I could not agree with you more. And it's like a knee-jerk reaction in the marketing world and agency world or brand world. Pick one, I don't care, where something new comes along. And I liken it too. If you remember when big data was the hot button, right? And we need to hire data scientists to handle all the big data. Okay, maybe that was warranted, right? Because that was a very specific use case. But it seems like there's just knee-jerk reaction to something new comes along, especially if it's technology laden. Oh, we need to hire people. You don't do that. Bob and Mary do AI.
Right.
And that could not be any more wrong and short-sighted. And quite honestly, that could not be, the beginning. I don't want to say the beginning of the end because it's a little hyperbolic. But if you look at it that way, you're not set up for success.
And I think it's a disservice to your creatives as well. Writers need to be learning how to use this stuff. They have to. It's an existential thing that we have to figure out. And if our orgs aren't pushing us to do it, I think that they're doing us a disservice. If they're protecting us from this stuff and saying like, no, like this isn't for you, then it makes us easier to replace.
Listen, if anybody's out there listening and they're being told, don't worry about AI. We have people to do. Don't listen to that.
No.
Like, learn it on your own.
Yeah.
And Kyle, because we're saying the same thing. Do not take that as, well, someone else is going to handle the quote AI in my company. No.
Right.
Let me get an agnostic view from you on something. What's the biggest challenge for brands right now? And I know that's really putting you on a spot, or you can have multiple answers, but what's the challenge for any brand in any industry right now? How would you answer that question?
No, I've got a very clear answer to that. It's complexity. Our world is just way too complicated for any single marketer to wrap their head around. And I think it's really hard to navigate the marketing landscape in 2024. Like, what is social media anymore? Who even knows? Like, what's your video strategy? Like, every question you could ask about a marketing strategy is too complex to answer anymore. And I think it causes all kinds of problems with like figuring out where to spend your money, figuring out what agency partners are right for you, figuring out like, how do you actually connect with people that you need to connect with to drive sales? And what does the sales pipeline even look like anymore when it's, the funnel has blown up and become completely abstracted in 1,000 different ways. So that to me is the biggest challenge for every marketer. And I think AI is going to help us dig our way out of it by making the data more accessible and helping us make decisions that our poor human mushy minds can't quite grok because the data is just so complex. But I don't think it's an easy way out by any means.
No, and I think it also plays into the stat that I know all too well, unfortunately, because I know so many, CMOs, is that CMOs on average have the shortest shelf life in the C-suite.
Yeah.
And I have very definitive reasons why. And one of them being, when a given company is going to hire a CMO, they do not ask the right questions. For example, what kind of CMO do I need? Do I need a brand CMO? Do you need a performance CMO? All those questions need to be asked up front, because when they're not, then comes a big part of the complexity you just talked about.
Yeah, and I think the challenges we see it, because we work with so many CMOs, is they tend to come from performance or brand or comms. And those are three super different fields. Like, they have almost nothing in common. And so, you end up with a marketing org that's over-indexing on one of those three when you really need all three to work and work together. You mentioned in my intro that Codeword is focused on communication design. For us, that's what communication design means. It's figuring out like, where are the integration points? Where's the point of connection with your audience? Because the channels have exploded, the funnel has exploded. There are still ways to build a brand in 2024 and create deep connections with communities and audiences. That hasn't gone away. It's just, there's all this other stuff going on in the digital world right now that we have to navigate.
Yeah. And look, as we all know, in the quote digital age, literally sometimes what is new today is old tomorrow.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, and it takes real work and real time and investment to keep up on all that.
Exactly. And then to fully understand a given brand, like in your world, when you're working with brands, to fully understand and get indoctrinated as deeply as you can into their audiences, their customers,
Yeah.
to align with their goals and objectives.
Which I think it's easier for Codeword, in my opinion, because we are very focused on technology. Almost all of our clients are tech companies, or they are banks and finance companies who want to be technology companies, or they're like travel and automotive, but they want to present as technology companies. Like every company wants to be a tech company. Anyway, so we've got these very clear kind of audiences that we tend to work with a lot. Like we do a lot of work with Android enthusiasts, for instance. The Android world is a very specific world with specific people in it and specific things they care about. Internet developers, we do a lot with developer audiences. And same thing, like, they evolve over the years, but generally the shape and the interests of that community have stayed relatively stable over the past few years, although it's changing a lot now with AI. So there are these few specific audiences that we target again and again and again, which makes it easier, And honestly, like 30 folks on our team are former tech journalists, so they know that community really well. They know what they click on, they know what they hate, what they love, the types of communities that they're likely to join, what's going to set off their bullshit radar, and look like marketing and smell like advertising to them, things like that. So I think it's easier for us than it is for like a typical creative shop where you've got pharma clients and a shoe client and toilet paper and orange juice. Like, I don't know how those agencies possibly build up the expertise to build any kind of meaningful connection with such specific audiences across such a wide range.
Yeah. Listen, all right. I want to hear more about your band, the instruments you play. We know you play piano. What else do you play?
Gosh, everything. My band is named Controller. We're like a dance rock band, lots of synths, lots of grinding guitars. I play lead guitar in that band right now, but I've played synth and bass in it over the years as well. So I kind of play everything. And then I love playing bluegrass music, and I tend to play mandolin or upright bass when I play bluegrass.
And there's a new single out this month, right? Where can people find it?
It's called That's Just How I Feel Sometimes. It's maybe the bounciest, danciest song about COVID depression. It's on Spotify and YouTube, and you can find it anywhere, really. I completely stole from Annie Lennox Walking on Broken Glass for the bridge. So enjoy the little piano. There's a little piano breakdown that's just for you, Steve.
I happen to love Annie Lennox and that song. I will definitely be listening.
It's a masterpiece.
Absolutely. And does the band, do you guys play dates, like tours or gigs, or what do you?
Yeah, I didn't prompt you to ask me that question, but yeah, we're playing a month-long residency at Pianos right now, every Tuesday night at 9.
Yeah, and where is that located?
Pianos is one of the best live music venues in New York City on the Lower East Side.
I love it.
It's great.
Oh, I will definitely take you up on it for sure. Yeah. I love live music. Okay, so wrapping up, listeners will know I always end each conversation basically the same way, and in Kyle's case, it's even more relevant because it's about music, and I'm a big music fan. And the album wall, the now infamous album wall behind me, that I know no one can see, I know. And my favorite song of all time, again, everybody who listens knows my favorite song of all time is called "Lean on Me" by Bill Withers. And the words, if you know the song, which I assume you do, the lyrics have always resonated with me. And I ask, is there a song lyric? Is there a song? Is there something musically, Kyle, that when you hear it, the words, whatever, the melody means a little something more?
This is a bad answer, but you've got the Four Tops right behind you. So I'll just use Four Tops. Like, reach out, I'll be there. What a simple, gorgeous expression of like camaraderie, whether it's romantic love or just support. Isn't that kind of what everybody wants? To know that someone's going to be there when they reach out. So I'll just use the Four Tops because they're a fantastic band.
There's no wrong answer. You get bonus points for using a Motown reference because that's my favorite music. Yeah. But you're right, though. It's such a simple, song, and the message that it conveys.
Yeah. And then the Jackson 5 picked up that and ran with it with "I'll Be There." Like, a whole bunch of bands have expressed similar thoughts, obviously, but I think Four Tops probably did it best.
Exactly. Well, listen, I've had a blast. I knew we were going to have a great time. There's so much more we could talk about. Part 2 is definitely coming. I hope you enjoyed it, and I want to thank you for coming on.
I had a great time. Thanks so much. And honestly, I hope that the stuff we're doing and we're talking about is useful for your listeners, because I think we're all kind of navigating the same choppy waters right now, but I'm confident there's a way through it. I'm an optimist. It's going to be better. We're going to make the world better next year than it was this year, right?
I love it. On that note, thank you again.
Thanks so much, Steve.
Well, that wraps up another episode of the CMO Whisperer Show. I hope you shared this episode with your friends. And if you have not already, please subscribe to be kept up to date on all the latest episodes. And if you're so inclined, leave me a review on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you.